It's been a while, but not a lot has been happening in the news space. Something I was trying to do with the PlayStation video was sort of recap all the news that happened over the last week. So let's do that for Xbox also because a lot happened. Let's go over it. Thank you for watching, everybody. If you like my content, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when it goes live. Normally, I wear glasses. I have contacts in today. Anyway, diving in right now, whoops, that's my membership button. Diving in right now, let's talk about this Jeff Grubb rumor. So during his show, Jeff Grubb talked about how Xbox had originally planned to release 9 exclusive games in 2023, and those included Hellblade 2, Perfect Dark, Fable Contraband, Avowed Everwild, and a new game from In Exile, Compulsion, who we haven't heard a lot about in a while, and Coalition's game that is not Gears of War. Coalition, sorry. So we know a lot of the games that are coming out in 2023, but what's really interesting about this is it gives us an idea of what we could expect for the back half of 2023. Let's hypothetically say all of this is coming for that second half. We're going to get Hellblade 2, Perfect Dark, a lot of people have been really excited about, Fable, which I believe they've said is further out than we think. But anyway, Contraband from the Just Cause team, Avowed, which is also from In Exile, if I remember correctly, Everwild, which we haven't heard anything about for a long time, a new game from In Exile, Compulsion made We Happy Few, and we haven't heard anything about them for a long time, but they have a new studio, and I've been saying something is coming from Compulsion, and I'm really curious. And Coalition has said that their next project is not going to be in the Gears universe for some time now. So I'm excited to see if any of this comes to fruition, and if even like 3 of these games are on the back half of 2023, Xbox is set up to have a very, very strong 2023 year, which is going to be quite needed after the very weak showing that they've had in 2022 compared to even the last half of 2021. Anyway, that was a rumor from Jeff Grubb that was floating around a lot. That's the first thing that we're going to talk about. But something that made me really happy was to see that Xbox had finally addressed the DRM issues. And I tweeted about this. Some good news about those Xbox DRM issues. This is via, let me give the YouTuber credit, because I watched this video and he talked about what he was able to discover for corrections. It's Hikoki Mori Media, and I'll be sure to link that in the comments below. But basically, some good news about those Xbox DRM issues. In September, Xbox Stealth patched it. It was actually before that, I found out later. Xbox Series X and Xbox One games can be installed and played offline. The console still requires internet for initial setup. Older 360 and OG Xbox still require internet, and he has a great breakdown that I'll link to in the description. Digital Xbox games work offline. Still, some games like Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5 do not come complete on the disc. It's a good update, still needs a few tweaks. Still glad to see the correction. This has been one of my biggest criticisms about Xbox. Sony fixed their DRM quite quickly after being called out for it. We're still running into this issue where both manufacturers are actually putting stuff on a disc that is basically an unlock key. That is not a practice that I like. They did it back in the 360 days with DLC. You would actually have the content on the disc, and then you would pay to get the code to unlock it. It's sort of this backwards way to handle things. I am very glad that Xbox has finally come around and made some important positive changes in terms of how their ecosystem works. Eden Marie confirmed over to IdleSlot that yes, this is true. Since the 2206 update, we examined data since Xbox Series X and S launch and determined the online compatibility check isn't needed in the vast majority of cases for Xbox One discs. Some games may still need to be updated online after install to ensure the best experience. And then there's a bunch of questions. I don't believe she followed up, but it's great to actually hear from somebody who's working on these updates to see that, hey, we care about this stuff. We are working on this. And we've identified that we really don't need to be doing all these online checks. And then when the internet goes down, they were having these massive outages. So I'm really, really happy to see that that has been corrected. Now, the big story of the week was all about Satya Nadella's response to Sony, who was thanking I believe it's the CMA, for looking closer into it. And basically, Bloomberg TV has a synopsis here of what was said. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella says he's confident regulators will approve of the deal to buy Activision for $69 billion. Speaking with Emily Chang TV, he says Sony, the number one player in the gaming industry, has already made several recent acquisitions. I think even in this period, you can see what he's saying, obviously, in the lower thirds. But this is their interview with Satya Nadella, and he's saying, if we're going to have competition, let us have competition. A lot of people have been cynical about this because they talk about how the developers and creators that Sony has purchased are smaller. But the only part of that I push back on would be that if Sony could afford to buy Activision, they would have tried to buy Activision also. There's no way that Activision is going around trying to get the highest bid and not going to one of the platforms that just has this huge audience. I have to imagine, like, let's say somehow the deal falls through. I don't feel like the deal is going to fall through, and most people don't. Here's Dom's playing saying, like Nadella, I am also confident the Microsoft and Activision deal will be approved sooner or later, most likely later. It's just a deal of this magnitude is going to be scrutinized by every single person who works at a regulatory body that's in a position to do so. Now, I know a lot of people don't agree with me. I don't really have any issue with industry consolidation like a lot of people do. I think it's kind of inevitable when you have these big bloated companies, and especially a place like Activision, who has just seen rampant mismanagement of their internal teams and everything, eventually say, look, we're looking to get out. We're looking to have somebody purchase us and spin off all these IPs. And we've seen that a lot with Tencent either buying or investing in people. Embracer Group doing the same thing. I believe they have a large chunk of the population. Sony's buying whatever they can. Sony spends less money, much less money, but they make amazing purchases, and they have a plan in place for success for the Sony brand. And that's why this Activision deal is less concerning for me. I'm not worried about Xbox buying Activision. A lot of people say that's because I'm a fanboy. I think that's just absolutely nonsense. I think there's a lot of people out there who don't want to see that their team is losing, and they feel like if Xbox is able to make this acquisition, then their team is losing. Now, Xbox and Microsoft have come out and said multiple times that those games will still be released multi-platform. So I think those concerns that are largely spun up because of the Bethesda acquisition aren't really founded in this case. The verbiage that they used in Minecraft is very similar to the verbiage they're using about Call of Duty. There's no indication that the Activision properties that have been cross-platform are suddenly going to be Xbox only. They've been very frank and upfront about that aspect of it, the same way they were with Minecraft. With Bethesda, they were very clear. Games are going to be on Xbox only. They crafted their statements quite differently than how they have been talking about this particular merger. Let's see if I actually have those quotes up. Gaming is a top priority across the devices, he said, and we see great potential to continue to grow the Minecraft community and nurture the franchise. That is why we plan to continue to make Minecraft available across platforms, including iOS, Android, and PlayStation, in addition to Xbox and PC. And then he said, that's why, as we said before, we are committed to making the same version of Call of Duty available on PlayStation on the same day the game launches elsewhere. We will continue to enable people to play with each other across platforms and across devices. So, to me, those statements being basically copy pasted for both of those properties tells me Call of Duty isn't going anywhere. But to PlayStation gamers out there, I actually kind of get where the fear would be coming from because of the way the Bethesda thing was handled. And potentially in the future, we'll see what ends up happening. But if Sony were buying, and I don't say this hyperbolically, I think we all know Sony would make those games exclusive and they would be unapologetic about it. Xbox is doing it, and they're saying they're going to keep the games multi-platform, and everybody's fixated on a statement from what I believe happened in January between a private conversation between Jim Ryan and Phil Spencer, where Xbox's Phil Spencer was saying, we'll let those games stay on PlayStation for about 3 years. And since then, since the public announcement and everything, they've been very clear. Okay, well, PlayStation basically said F you to that. And Xbox said, okay, well, we'll just keep them multi-platform in perpetuity. What will likely happen are the regulators are going to make a consent decree where Xbox has to keep Call of Duty multi-platform, and I think any future franchises that happen to be created with within that Activision Blizzard wheelhouse, those could potentially wind up exclusive on the Xbox ecosystem. Now, what PlayStation really should be talking about and focusing in on for the regulators isn't this Call of Duty fear, which is, it's just strange to me because they have a $5 billion market lead. Their revenue created from Call of Duty was about, we'll say $1.5 billion, right? That is a big chunk, but that's still, like, let's say all that revenue goes exclusively to Xbox, which it isn't. They're still going to make that money if it's multi-platform. It will go to Xbox, but it doesn't really impact Sony's positioning. Sony will likely remain top dog in terms of game manufacturers, and Xbox will be behind them. And I don't know where Nintendo ends up, honestly, but mostly we focus on Xbox and PlayStation here. So that's sort of like what I've been thinking about the whole situation. Now, I started this whole ramble with a comment about, do I think this deal will go through? It's going through. Microsoft isn't the type of company that's going to put down nearly $70 billion and then things get tough and they're like, we're out. No, I think if the regulators get too pushy, Microsoft can get super pushy, as we talked to Hogue Law here on this channel, a lawyer who has dealt with this sort of thing before, and they can start pulling like Windows out of the UK if the UK pushes too hard. So I do think they'll do the consent decree route with these regulators to come to a amicable thing for both PlayStation and Xbox. Xbox doesn't seem to care if Call of Duty comes to multi-platforms, and with Minecraft being one of their most profitable franchises, they're probably less likely to do that. Which does make me wonder, why did they decide to make all the Bethesda properties exclusive? I guess they just really wanted the RPGs and they really wanted the shooters back on Xbox, and that relationship has been, they've been very friendly with each other for a very long time. So maybe there's something there. That's something I would have to ask about. If I ever could ask Phil Spencer something, I'd be like, so Bethesda games are exclusive. You're saying Activision games won't be. Why the different strategies between the two companies? Because now people are like, no, you're going to take away these games too from PlayStation gamers, which is what they're concerned about. And we can talk about how PlayStation has played dirty, which I have on this channel many times. But I understand where that fear is coming from. And I think my frustration has been explaining to people that Microsoft has been very clear that the game's not going anywhere. They want to keep it multi-platform. And then we get this statement from Jim Ryan. I almost wonder if the statement was timed. I'm just really like thinking out loud right now. I wonder if the statement was sort of timed so that he could piggyback on this whole regulator thing that's happening right now. Anyway, let me know what you think about that in the comments below. It's something to sort of noodle on. That's the news all about Xbox in the last week. The big one being that Nadella comment. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my content, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. I greatly appreciate you watching. Thank you so much to the members. Memberships are turned on right now, and if you want to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the join button at the bottom down there. And I don't want to get too into it. Things are great. We're having another baby, so the second baby is on the way. But I have been really tired lately and pretty low on motivation. So I've been posting fewer videos the last few days. And I apologize for that because I know you like my content. But sometimes you just got to, take a few days, take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, and rest up and come back ready to go. I don't like to post. I really hate it when I miss a video, because I feel like I'm letting you all down, but I'm doing my best, and I hope that I will be posting more soon. So yeah, if you didn't hear, baby number 2, Ligari, on the way. Super great news. Incredibly happy about the second baby. Our first son is great. I don't mean to get so personal. I feel like this is way TMI, but that's what's going on in my personal life. And enough about me. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now, everybody.